Okay? So today you're going to get this half sheet. Now it's a half sheet, I understand that, but we didn't want to make it be on a full sheet. Okay? This is going to be super duper helpful today. It's going to be more helpful than your multiplication chart, actually. Okay? But we're still getting our multiplication chart today because we're going to be multiplying fractions today. So I would put your name on this half sheet, and then so that you don't lose it. B7 is also due at some point in time before you leave class in the next 54 minutes. Okay? So make sure that you turn that in. Okay? Snap. I hope formed it. And we'll reference this here in a minute. Okay? For those of you that have been paying attention to the side calendar over here, so today it's Good Buddy Day today, 10-4. Get it? 10-4 Good Buddy. Okay. Old CB talk. Okay. So we're here. Tomorrow you're going to have a review, a little bit of review, some practice problems, and you're going to have a formative tomorrow too. Okay. Then Friday we'll get into some more multiplying and adding fractions. Next week, we'll divide fractions and do all 4 operations on Tuesday. Then we got a couple of days of review. And I know it's hard to see because it's tucked in here behind the computer monitor, but we're going to have your test, your Unit B test, on Friday the 13th. Okay? So Friday, October 13th will be your Unit B test. Okay? All right? Let's get into it. So if you go back, so let's see, B8 is there. We have room on B. If you go back maybe one page to B6, the backside of B6, if you could find some space somewhere in your note packet somewhere, I don't care where, but you can find some space to do these 4 problems. Right now, that would be awesome. So do these 4 problems. 2 adding, 1 subtracting, and 1 change to an improper. Okay? We're doing these 4 problems right now. Go. First one, what are we doing? What operation? We're going to have to decide what operation we're doing. So far we've got adding and subtracting. Today we're going to add multiplication. Next week, Monday, we're going to add division. So we're going to have to decipher what operation we're doing with our fraction. What operation is going on in number 1. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Operation. Princeton, what operation is going on in number 1? Well, what's the sign? What's the mathematical sign between the fractions? Add. So we're adding the fraction, okay? So because the reason we've got to know what we're doing is because the steps that we have to do then are going to be different for all of them, okay? So somebody refresh my memory. If we're adding fractions, what's the first thing we have to have? What do you got now? We got to have common denominators. Do we have, in number 1, common denominators? Yeah, we do. So then that means we can skip step number 2. We can go right to step number 3. What is step number 3 in our adding fractions? What do you got to do? Add the tops. Yep, add the tops. And we keep that all over the common denominator, right? Okay? So 3 plus 4 is 7, and that's going to be over 7. I don't know why I got the marker going on here now. It's staying there. Okay? So 3 plus 4 over 7. Do I like 7 over 7? Why not, Lasha? We can make it 1, right? Because it reduces. 7 goes into 7. 7 goes into 7. So we can reduce this to just 1. Reduce that to 1. Okay? See what I mean? You had the 7 over 7. I didn't see the 1.
I erased it.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. We always want to reduce our fractions. Okay. Problem number 2. What's our operation? Shout it out. Addition again. What do we got to have for addition? If you don't know, look back to yesterday's notes. If you don't know, look back to 2 days ago's notes. Okay? So look back to either Monday or Tuesday's notes. They're right there in the middle of the page on B6. Right at the top of the page on B7. What's our first step that we gotta have when we're adding fractions? Say it loud. We gotta have a common denominator. Do we have a common denominator? No, Nora. What would be our common denominator? 6. Okay, because 3 goes into 6. 6 goes into 6. Love it. So 6.
Yeah, make sure you do that step first.
Huh?
It's a good step too.
Okay? Write out that stuff. Don't try and do all this stuff in your head. It's okay to write stuff down. Alright? First fraction, my left fraction. Do I need to adjust it? Because that's step number 2 from Monday and Tuesday. Left fraction, do I need to adjust it? No, that's going to stay 5 over 6 because it's already in the common denominator. Okay? Second fraction, my right fraction. What do I have to adjust that one to be? Well, because I multiplied the 3 by 2 to get 6. So I'm going to multiply the top by 2 to get 6. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay? Now we have common denominators. Now what do we do? Step 3. Add what? Add the numerators, add the tops. 5 plus 2 is 7. Okay? And that's all going to be over 6. Can I reduce 7 over 6? Can't reduce it, but I can rewrite it as what?
Yeah, what do we call
What is the whole number?
What do we call that? A whole number and a fraction.
1 and 1/6? What do we call it? What's the mathematical title for 1 and 1/6? You're right. I'm looking for 2 words. Mixed fraction or mixed number. Yep. Good job.
And you're good with 7 over 6, right?
I'm great with 7 over 6.
Sometimes it's even easier just to leave it at 7 over 6.
I love 7 over 6 more than I love 1 and 1/6. Okay. Number 3. How do we want to tackle this one? It's different now. It's subtraction. Okay. But how do we want to tackle it? Do we want to tackle it as number minus number and then fraction minus fraction? Or do we want to switch them both into improper fractions and then numberize them? What do you want to do, Norm? Do the number minus number first? Okay, all right. So 5 minus 3 is going to go out here. And then we're going to get added to, and then we've got these two. 3/5 minus 1/2.
So, do you ever keep it as just get the common denominator and leave the number up front?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we can do that too, but in our brain, that's what our brain is thinking. Okay? 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay? Do I have common denominators in the purple? Okay, what would my common denominator be? Tens. First fraction gets adjusted to be what? 6 over 10. Okay, because we multiplied 5 by 2 to get 10. 3 times 2 is 6. Second fraction gets adjusted to be 5 over 10, because we multiplied by 5. 5 over 10. 6 tenths minus 5 tenths. 1/10. So we could go here 2 and 1/10. Or if we did it the other way, we would have gotten 21 tenths. Okay. Changing to an improper fraction. 2 3/4. What do I do? Whoa, have a break. That all should have come with it. 2 3/4. What do I do first to change it to an improper fraction? What do I do first?
Any brave volunteers? What you got?
What do you got, buddy? So really, we're doing something times 4. 2. We multiply. We work the wheel, right? So we're going to multiply here. So what is 2 times 4? That's 8. And then what? Add 3 then we add the numerator. Yep, and then we add here. 8 plus 3, 11. And what do we put that all over?
Very nice. Good job. All right. It's like the little man computer. All in a row.
All right. So now we're in our B9 notes. You're still going to need to have out your multiplication chart. Okay, so get that out. When I say, or when Mrs. Hill says, get out your multiplication chart, we're saying that for a reason. So please get out your multiplication chart. You will also need to have out your brand new factors and products chart too. So have both of those sitting out so that when we ask these questions, you can answer them logically. Okay? All right? So, if we are going to multiply fractions, now there's a couple of different things that we can do when we're multiplying fractions. And we'll get into this in a little bit. But the first thing that we need to do is you need to change all of your mixed numbers into improper fractions. You don't get a choice. There you go.
No,
Yeah. You have to change them into improper fractions. You do not get a choice in that. Okay? It's not like when we're adding fractions and you get the choice of, do we keep it improper, or do we switch them to improper fractions, or do we keep them as mixed numbers? You don't get that choice here in multiply. Okay? Now, here is where where you now have a choice in this next one. So one method of multiplying fractions is you can reduce the numerators and the denominators if possible. What I mean by that is you can reduce first and then multiply. Okay? That's one method of doing it. That's the way that I do it, because my numbers are smaller when I'm multiplying. So you can reduce first, and we'll go through this. It's easier to see this, especially with the charts that we have. We can reduce first and then multiply. Our other option is we could multiply first and then reduce. Okay? So you can't go wrong as to how you do it. Okay? You just got to remember that when we're reducing, it's got to be one of the numbers that we're looking at to reduce has to be on top, and one has to be on the bottom. When we're multiplying, top goes with top, bottom goes with bottom. Okay? So reducing is across the fraction bar. Multiplying is same side of the fraction bar. And then at the end, you got to reduce your fraction to make sure. Okay? But again, if you reduced it first, you don't have to reduce it at the end. Okay? So it's either multiply then reduce, or reduce then multiply. Okay? And then we just kind of make sure. Okay? So let's put this into work here now with these two. Okay? We're going to do the same problem two different ways. Okay? So the first way is we can reduce first. Okay? So I look here at this number 2 right there. It's on top, yes? Okay? So then I have to look at the bottom, and are there any numbers on the bottom that have a factor of 2? Any numbers on the bottom that have a factor of 2? Let me take a brief pause here, and let's go to this chart. This is what we just gave you today. Okay? So what are the two numbers on the bottom in this multiplication problem? In the example, what are the two numbers? Nora? 8 and 3. So I'm looking here at 3, and I'm looking here at 8. So what this tells me is this tells me all of the factors of those two numbers. So the factors, what evenly multiplies into a number for 3, are 1 and 3. The factors for 8 are 1 and 8, 2 and 4. Okay? So I look at those and I say, does any of those have a 2? 8's got a 2 in it, right? Okay? It's got it right there. So that 2 can get crossed out. You write it here a little differently. Okay? So that 2, 8 here is 2 times 4. And that 2 on top crosses out that 2 on the bottom. Because they're factors. Because we're multiplying. Multiplying has different rules than adding and subtracting. Okay? Then I go over here and I look at my next top number. My next top number is 3. On the bottom, now all I've got is 3 and 4. This one's pretty easy because a 3 shows up on top and a 3 shows up on the bottom. So those two cross each other out also. So I'm left here with 1. I'm left here with 1. And I'm left there with 1. And all of those get multiplied. So we reduced first, then we multiply. So now I multiply across. 1 times 1. 1 times 1. 1. 1 times 4. 4. So my answer here is 1/4. Okay. That's one way of doing it. That's the way that I prefer that way. I'm a professional teacher. Okay. I prefer that way. Okay. The other method, still just as good. Okay. You're going to multiply first. So you multiply across the top. 2 times 3. That's 6.
6 over.
And then you multiply across the bottom. 3 times 8. 24. So this would be 6 over 24. And now what you got to do with that? Now you got to reduce it. You're either going to multiply first and then reduce, or you're going to reduce and then multiply. One of the two. Okay? So now again, we can go to our charts. So here's our chart. Now I'm looking at 6, and I'm looking at 24. What's the biggest number that shows up in those two together? Biggest number that shows up, biggest number in those factors that shows up in 6 and 24. What do you got, Clint? 6. 6 shows up in both of them. It shows up right here, and it shows up right there. Okay? So that means that I can divide both of these by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 24 divided by 6 is 4. So my reduced answer here is 1/4.
That's a lot more easier.
You think?
You think?
All right, raise your hand if you think method 1 is easier.
Okay. How many people think method 2 is easier? Awesome. The best part is you can do it whichever way you want. Okay? If you thought number 1 is easier, or if you think tomorrow that number 1 is easier, you can do it that way. If you're dead set on doing it method number 2, that's fine too. Okay? We're going to get the same answer because we're doing the same problem. Okay? All right? Let's do some more. Let's get into these. Okay? All right? So, number 1. You guys wanted to do method number 2, right? Let's do method number 2 on this one, and we'll do my way on the next example, and I'll show you why sometimes mine's better. Okay? Okay? I hate to break it to you, but sometimes mine is better. Okay? All right? So method number 2 on this one, on number 1. I know it's method number 2 on number 1. Okay? So we're going to multiply across 2 times 10. 20.
20 over
5 times 13. 65. This is why we've got those multiplication charts out with us. Okay? All right? So we've got 20 over 65. Now we go to our new factor chart. We're looking at both going to be at the bottom. I was hoping that they're both going to be at the bottom. We're looking at 20 and 65. What's the biggest number that shows up in both? 5, right? 5? Okay. So that means then that we can divide 20 by 5. We can divide 65 by 5. 20 divided by 5 is 4. 65 divided by 5. 13.
And you can get that from this blue factor sheet too.
Yep. Yep. Because it's on there. It's on there as...
Go to 65.
Go to 65, yep.
And we're dividing by 5, so 5 was with 13. Right there. There you go.
Right there. Yep.
7. I get that. Okay.
Okay? Still set on method number 2, right? Okay, so what's 15 times 44 without using a calculator in number 2? Roll, right? It's a pretty big number. Okay? So let's show you my method again. Dora, pop that head up. Okay? Alright, so we're looking on your factor chart. Let's look at 11 and 15 or 44. 11 and 15 or 44. Does any number show up there together? Looking on our blue factor chart.
So start with 11.
Start with 11. What are the two numbers that multiply together? Or give me two numbers that multiply together to be 11. And 1 and 11. Are there any more? Nope, there's no more. Okay? All right? Now let's look at 15. In 15, does 1 or 11 show up? 1 does, right? But that's not going to help us. Okay? Because 1 doesn't help us when we're factoring. Okay? Let's look at 44. Does 11 show up in 44? Yes, it does. Okay? So 11 divided by 11 is how much? 1. 44 divided by 11 is how much? 4. Okay, I divided both of those by 11. Now, let's look at 3 and 15. What multiplies together to be 3? 1 and 3?
That's it. Good job.
Okay? So 1's not going to help us. Does 3 go into 15? How many times? 5 times. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Okay? We have only 1's at the top. So now we can multiply. 1 times 1 is 1. 5 times 4 is 20. So my answer here is 1/20. And you didn't even have to multiply 15 times 44. 15 times 44? 15 times 4 is 60. 15 times 44 is 660.
Some of you might want to rewrite this, and that's fine.
Yep.
You can also rewrite it if that's easier for you. That's all. We're just taking those and rewriting them into its own. So if you get confused by crossing stuff off, you want to rewrite it, that's fine.
Perfect.
Don't worry about it.
Great. Yep.
Does anyone have questions on how to use this, the factor sheet? Oh, we're good. If you have questions, you want to ask us at the end of class or something, let us know.
Okay? Now, in number 3, do I have 2 fractions? We got it? No? Or do I? Put it over 1, right? So we could rewrite this as -6 over 1 times -5 over 12. Okay? You do this one. Right now, I'll give you a minute to do this one. Whichever method you choose, you do this one now that we wrote -6 over 1. We know it's positive, okay, because of the double negatives. So if I multiply across, -6 times -5. Negative times a negative. Positive 30. Okay. 1 times 12. 12. Biggest number that goes into 30 and 12 from my blue chart. 6.
Dividing both by 6, and 30 divided by 6 is 5 over 2.
What's my alternative answer?
In other words, if you wanted to rewrite that as
If we wanted to write it as a mixed fraction or mixed number, 2 1/2.
You can leave it as 5/2. It's even more work to write it as a mixed number.
Yep, it's actually more steps to write it as a mixed number. Okay? What's the problem in number 4? Nope. So far we've done all multiplication problems today.
Well, that's what we're doing. You're saying that's what we're doing?
No, what's the issue? What do we got to do first? Is what my question was. I was unclear in my question. No, we're okay with the parentheses. What do the parentheses mean?
So that's a good point. Yeah, you're saying multiply because that's what the problem is. Two parentheses next to each other. Good.
Okay, so I like that. Okay, so parentheses just means multiply. Look back. Look up at the top of your page. What is the very first step that we said? No, not in multiplication. It's literally on the page you're looking at, Lacha. What's number 1? Change all improper fractions, or change all mixed numbers to, we got to change all of our mixed numbers first into improper fractions. Okay? So 2 times 5 here is 10 plus 1 is 11. So this is 11/5 before we can even start. 4 times 2 is, plus 1 is 9. So this is 9/2. We have to change first. Okay? Multiply across then, right? That's kind of you guys' preferred method.
Apparently.
11 times 9 is 99. 5 times 2 is 10. Is there any common denominator, common factors in 99 and 11 using your blue sheet that you just got? Or 99 and 10. I did say 11. That would have been 1. Any common factors in 99 and 10? Just 1, right, Chloe? And 1 doesn't help us. 1's the non-helper. So any common factors? No. So that fraction is reduced.
And you could rewrite that as a mixed number. 9 and 9.
Okay? But again, that's extra work. If you want to put in the extra work, more power to you. Put in that extra work. Okay? Love it. 2 more. You do these 2 down here. Okay? Just another way of writing a multiplication problem. The x, when we put that x or a dot in between, that means multiply. If we have 1 set of parentheses, that still means multiply too. Okay? So you try those 2 right now. All right. So first thing that we've got to do in this one is we've got to change 2 and 2/3. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8. That's over 3. Then I'm going to change 3 to be 3 over 1. Okay? Now I see that there's a 3 on top, and there's a 3 on the bottom. So if I got a 3 on top and a 3 on the bottom, those cross each other out. Okay? Crisscross, be gone. Left with just 8 times nothing, or 8 times itself, or 8 times 1, I should say, over 1 times 1 is just 8 there. How many people, thumbs up, got 8 for that one? Okay.
And the other way, you have 24 over 3, which
Yep.
is still 8.
Still 8. Okay. Next one, I'm going to write it as 5 over 1, and then that's going to be multiplied by 5 over 2. Can I cross out those 5s? Why not? There's 1 in each fraction. Why can't I cross those out? Very important here. Why can't I cross those out? We said it earlier. In your notes. Way up at the top. It's not because it's an improper fraction. No. I'm good with the improper fractions work. Why can't I cross out the 5? Why was I able to cross out these 3s? There were 2 of them. Why was I able to cross out the 3 from here and the 3 in 15, the 11 in 11 and the 11 in 44? Why was I able to cross out the 2 here in the 8 and these 2 3s right there? Why? What happened with both of those? One was where and the other one was where?
Yeah, one was on top, one was on bottom.
One was on top and one was on the bottom. The only way that you can cross something out is if one is on top and one is on the bottom. Okay? So then since that doesn't work out, this one becomes 25 over 2 or 12 and 1/2. Okay? B8 homework today. If you have B7 homework to turn in, now would be a great time. Make sure you don't lose your factor sheet. That's going to be a huge resource for you. Okay? All right? If you got anything else to turn in, turn that in at this point in time too.